Well, g'day, curd nerds. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Cheeseman, where you can learn about cheese making at home. We'll just wait to see if the stream's all working and we'll get going. Let's have a look. Yep, it says it's good. Anyway, let's. Oh, Kim's there. Hello, Kim. How are you? And we'll start the show. Good morning, Brendan.
Well, g'day, curd nerds. G'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds. As I mentioned, episode 62 of Ask the Cheeseman. We'll say g'day to Brendan, Martin, and John, who are so far in the chat. It says I've got one watching, but I don't think that's quite accurate. But we'll get a move on. Now, some of the things I'd like to say, a big shout out to patrons this week. We've got new patrons, Peachy Confetti. We've also got the Aspiring Homesteader. Thank you very much for your patronage. The cheeses that I've been working on, we've been quite busy with workshops, not specifically cheese ones, but other ones that we teach at Little Green Workshops. And we taught a full day cold process cheese. I'll start again. A full day cold process soap making workshop. So we had two classes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon on Sunday. So I had to squeeze in a quickest cheese I could come up with. So what I did was I made yogurt cheese and I filmed that and discovered that yogurt cheese is also called labna. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a Lebanese cheese. And there's lots of dishes on the internet on how to use labna. So I actually combined it. So a cheese making video with a taste test slash recipe. So pretty cool. I managed to get all three things that I normally do into one video. So that's pretty cool. All right. So let's. What else have I got? Oh, I'm making cheese today. I'm hoping to make a drunken cow. Of my own, out of my own recipe book, Keep Calm and Make Cheese. I haven't got a video for that. I was looking through the book the other day and seeing what videos were missing. So I'll come up with a video for that. Anyway, we've got a few more on the chat now, which is fantastic. So g'day to 3-Star, Food Dairy, Say Cheese, cool. Dwayne, Bart, Geordie, Matt, Fierce Maggot, B Mets, Tom, and there we go. Okay, so we'll kick off with questions, but Martin's got a statement, I think. He says, you may recall some time ago, I told you I was making THC cheese, cheddar specifically, and you asked how it went. Turned out well, tasted quite nice. Turned out quite nice and tasted tasty and works well. That's fantastic. Well done, Martin. Probably have some health benefits too, I would say. Seeing there's been a lot of discovered medicinal uses of marijuana over the last few years. In fact, here in Victoria, where I live, the government passed a law that you can use medicinal marijuana, which is the oil, for many different conditions, and the medical profession has jumped on top of that and said that's a fantastic thing, and it's helped out a lot of people that couldn't be helped before. Dwayne's from Alberta, Canada. G'day, Dwayne. And where are we? Finally woke up, see my last cheese making. All right, so we got some questions, I think. Fierce Maggot says, how good is American cheese on your scale from 1 to 100? Well, American cheese is processed cheese. I'm a big... I don't condone the use of American cheese, but I don't like it. We don't get it over here, but if it's anything like Kraft singles, then it's pretty ordinary stuff. Okay. Yeah, John commented saying American cheese, not sneeze, is on a negative scale because it's not real cheese. That's correct. Geordie said, I tasted my first kefili after 3 weeks, and considering my mistakes, it came out great. It's a great simple cheese. Indeed, it is. In fact, I was going to remake my kefili video because I think it was the second or third video I ever made, and the lighting was poor, and there was no instructions, and even though I'd included the full recipe in my book, the video just wasn't up to scratch. So I'm thinking of recording that again soon as well. Because it is just too nice a cheese not to have a decent video for. Okay, 3-star food dairy. Do you recommend any book for cheese making? I saw a few in your last videos. Please suggest. Thanks in advance. Yeah, there's a couple that I like. There's my book, which is Keep Calm and Make Cheese, a beginner's guide to cheese making home. Be amiss of me if I didn't mention my own book. Another good one is 200. Oh, there's actually a couple I recommend. I've got hundreds. Oh, let me have a look. So this book here, you see dog tag because I'm working on a few there. 200 Easy Cheeses, Easy Homemaking Cheese Recipes by Deborah Amron's Boys. I'll put some Amazon affiliate links to those books in the description below later on. And this other one, if you're really into natural cheese, you don't want to use calcium chloride, and you got a ready source of raw milk, then this is the one for you. The Art of Natural Cheese Making by David Asher, very good book. And it's got lots of recipes in there, and he's got some good techniques on how to make cheese naturally, like they did in the early days before we had, liquid rennet and all that sort of stuff. He tends to, in that book, use an animal rennet for all of his cheeses, which is in tablet form. Anyway, I'm back to the questions. So, Brendan says, I made a double cream brie from raw milk. The whey coming off was normal at first, then 10 hours later it went into a thick mucus. Have you heard of whey doing this before, and what is the cause? Only after quite a bit of time I've seen whey turn into a thick mucus-like thing. In fact, the very first drunken cow cheese that I made, I had waxed that cheese, and when I pulled the wax off, there was this sticky whey-like substance. Is the only thing I can think of, because from what I figure, that some of the lactose was converted to alcohol and made this sticky paste out of the whey. That's the only time I've seen it before, Brendan, but never during the actual cheese making session itself. So that's a bit unusual. So can't really help you out there, but I have experienced it, but not in the time frames that you're stating there. Matt B says, hello from mid-Tennessee. Well, g'day, y'all. Dwayne, where would you get unpasteurized milk for making cheese if it's not available in my country? What would you do? What would I do? I'd go and find some dairy farmers and ask if I could buy their milk. And if you weren't sure about their milking practices and hygiene, then I would use low temperature, long hold pasteurization, which is also called thermizing your milk, just to kill off any of the bad bacteria, but leaving some of the good bacteria behind. So that's what I would do. B. Matt said, did you know Tillamook Cheese is redoing their visitor centre? It's really awesome during the upgrade. That's really nice to know. Say Laurie, hi there. Do you have a simple and rennet-free recipe for cottage cheese? Greetings. Yes, it's called paneer. That's Indian cottage cheese. If Kim can pop the link up, and I don't know if she has, can you put the link up, Kim, for the paneer recipe video? That would be fantastic. Tony says, I made my first farmhouse cheddar after 5 days, room temp. It's still moist. Day 6, there is a blue-green mold and white and black mold spots. I'm wiping it with a brine solution. Day 8, still no rind. Is it still good? Yes, it's still good. If you keep washing it, then it will eventually form a rind. It'll go harder. Seems like if you still got whey weeping out of it, then the pressing pressure may not have been great enough to get most of the whey out of your curds, or you may not have stirred the curds long enough during the cheese making process. Fizz Maggot says American cheese is craft singles. It's good on cheap burgers. Yeah, it could be good on cheap burgers, but I prefer my cheese natural. Thank you very much. Deep South Texas, hi y'all. G'day, mate. Matt B, my basement area says my basement kitchen area stays at 75 Fahrenheit with 50% humidity. Any cheese good to ripen in that environment? Not really. Unless you, let me have a look. Convert 75 Fahrenheit to Celsius.
23.9 degrees Celsius.
The temperature's a little bit high. 23 degrees Celsius. Your cheese will have a runaway lactic bacteria problem because the temperature's way too high. It's got to be 10 degrees Celsius lower, so about 55 Fahrenheit and 13 degrees Celsius. You won't have any cheeses able to age in that environment. They'll just go sour too quick. John, have you made any smoked cheeses? Not as yet. Sorry to say. Nick, hello, curd nerds. Thank you. Dwayne says he's originally from a farm. I guess it will be worth asking farmers for milk. I'm a city dweller now. Yeah, look, some, Dwayne, just on that point, some supermarkets now, well, certainly here in Australia, do stock unhomogenized milk. So they've gone back to creamline milk, mainly because of the coffee set here in Australia. There are a lot of people who love drinking proper coffee, using proper espresso coffee machines, and they found that the unhomogenized milk makes a damn fine cup of coffee because they use a lot of milk in the coffee, and it froths up a lot better if the cream if the milk has not been homogenized. Anyway, 3 stars, Dairy Food, awesome. Thanks very much. I just took a screenshot of it. Much appreciated your help. However, I know how to make paneer as I'm from India. Oh, okay. There you go. Sorry I couldn't be any more of help because that's kind of what the cottage cheese is without rennet and without starter culture. You can't really make it. All you can make is kind of paneer. Philip. Hello, Philip. Great to see you back on here. Hi, Gavin. I haven't been able to watch in a long time. Just finished my last engineering exam. I hope you passed, mate. Brendan. Oh, Kim's got the link. Thank you very much, Kim. Brendan, do you know what causes the outer skin of white mold, such as brie, from not slipping but going like a blister? It lifts away and out away from the cheese. Under the skin is dry, not wet. No, I've never experienced that, Brendan. You seem to have lots of fantastic sort of issues there. I think some of the, let me think, there is, right, so let me think, if I can remember this rightly, you can add a pinch of Brevibacterium linens. No, that's the other way around. No, I'm thinking of a washed rind cheese. You can prepare the surface of a washed rind cheese, which is a red mold cheese, with a pinch of geotrichum, which neutralizes the surface of the cheese and makes the red bloom spread faster. I don't know if you're using Geotrichum candidum, Brendan, in your white mold cheese, but that tends to help with any sort of skin issues that may occur. Certainly has helped mine become a better camembert or brie. So that's all I can just suggest, unless you've already done that. Peter says, is it possible to make feta using citric acid instead of culture? Would it taste close to feta? No, it won't. It won't be anything like feta. It'll be like ricotta salata, which is also a nice cheese if you make it from whey, but if you try and make it from milk, it won't. It'll be a lot sourer. Philip says, after making my own culture butter, how do I use the buttermilk as a substitute for a culture in terms of quantities with your recipes? 5 litres of milk. How much buttermilk? I would tend to use about 7%. So 7% buttermilk, which will have the mesophilic starter culture in it, to your milk quantity, and that seems to work quite well. I've done that before only once, and it did turn out to be a very nice cheese. Okay, so 7%. Geordie says, I can't wait to try my Tilsit this weekend. I've had to put it in the fridge as it was getting too warm. I've had problems with moisture, but it smells amazing. Yeah, they do smell a bit on the nose to start with, and then they do start to smell very earthy, which is really good. Dwayne says, in Canada, I don't see unpasteurised milk in the shops, which is unfortunate. So you're going to have to try that farmer route there, mate. Donna, hello, Donna. I vacuumed at Leicester and then Keflatiri due to a large amount of moulds a month ago. I just returned from vacation, had lost power, not sure when. I rushed them to the fridge. That looks great, but what do you think the odds are? Depends on how warm it got in the fridge. All that will happen is that you'll have the cultures start to multiply a lot faster at those higher temperatures because I know the Keflatiri uses thermophilic, so probably not so much of an issue, but Leicester uses a mesophilic culture, which likes temperatures around between 28 and 30 degrees Celsius. And they'll multiply rapidly and create a lot of acid from any lactose that's left in your cheese. So look, give them a go. Leave them in the normal fridge until you think they're ripe and see what happens. You can only try. I wouldn't tell anybody to throw away cheese because you don't know if you've serendipitously created an amazing cheese. So, yeah, let them ripen out. So give that a go. John says, do you have any plans to make smoked cheese? Plans. Yes, I always have plans, but the best plans of mice and men are often thwarted. So, yeah, trying to juggle a full-time home business with cheese making on YouTube is often quite of a struggle, but I'm managing it so far. But we'll see if I can come up with any smoked cheeses. I do have a liquid smoked flavored cheese in the form of Gouda. So you could look that one up, and if Kim's online there, if you can put up the liquid smoked or liquid flavor, smoke flavored Gouda for John, and he can check out how I did that. Matt said, if I keep the kitchen between 50 and 65, would that be okay? Yeah, I think it probably would, but it's going to be quite chilly. But yeah, that'll work. Brendan said he might try that. Also, maybe some ash. I'm not using Geo. Yeah, ash will help, and that helps neutralize the acidity on the surface and prepares it for the Penicillium Roque 40. I remember when I made my Bloomy Goat Blue, I couldn't believe how fast the oh, that's not good. How fast the white mold grew on the cheese. It was just amazing, and it just spread, and it was a lovely, nice, thick layer, and just the cheese tasted amazing. Okay, hang on. I need to have a coffee break. Oh. Rightio. Sorry about that. Ekna says, hi, the cheese man. Hello. I just stopped by to say I like your cheese making videos, even though I don't plan on making any. They are relaxing and entertaining, and it's interesting to learn about it. Well, thanks very much. And Kenny says exactly the same things, that they're so relaxing. Is that a bit of, what is it called? AMSR? that it presses everybody's right buttons or something. I don't know. Sounds. I've been called the Bob Ross of cheese making many times because of the way I talk, but so be it. Happy to be compared to Bob Ross. He was a great bloke. And Kenny says, greetings from Denmark and hello to you. Michael, hello. And Philip says, instead of using vacuum pack, what do you think of using a Ziploc bag and using a straw to suck the air out of it? Would the small amount of air be a significant problem? Yes, it would. Because not only does blue and green molds, which is basically Penicillium roqueforti, 40, love any sort of air. You may have black mold issues. You may have, basically mold growth. So you won't be able to get enough air out of the bag by doing that. And those Ziploc seals, from experience, they tend to burst open because if the cheese is making gas on its own, sometimes when you vacuum seal, the bag puffs up a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit if it's producing CO2. But with the Ziploc seal, it'll burst the seal straight open, and then lots of mold will flood in because it's in the and yeasts because they're in the atmosphere all around us. Pierre says, is quick mozzarella the only cheese you can make with citric acid? No, you can make paneer. You can make whey ricotta. You can make sweet ricotta. So there's a few cheeses just off the top of my head that use just citric acid. TV Box says, can you recommend cheese book that uses pH or acidity rather than time? There are a few recipes. Hang on, I'll dig it up. In Ricky Carroll's book, Cheese Making, what's it called? Home Cheese Making, 75 Recipes. This is the original book I first bought. That side, Gav. It does have some with pH in it, but not a lot. It's mainly time. So that's the only one I can think of. But it is a quite good little book. Just remember that for anybody who doesn't live in America, this book you will have to convert all of the measurements and all of the temperatures because there are no dual. There's no metric in it at all, and that's what pissed me off the most about this book was that there was no metric at all in it, and it's only caters for the North American market when there are so many other countries in the world. Just saying. Okay. Brendan says, I only use Penicillium camberti, which is a variation of Penicillium candidum. I'm not sure, Brendan. I think, like we mentioned before, if you use ash, maybe neutralise the surface, or a tiny pinch of geo, that might work as well. Okay, 3 stars food dairy. There is a restaurant here, and they serve a kind of garlic flavoured cheese on their side dishes, and it tastes amazing. Do you have any idea of making such a flavoured cheese? My question to you is it a soft cheese or a hard cheese? Then I'll be able to tell you how to make it. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. And Brendan says, Gavin, Bob Ross, Weber. That's nice. One, Boogan, I've made your Wensleydale cheese. Out of the press, I dried it for 2 days, and then the wheel split in 2 pieces. Oh, what? Out of the press, I dried for 2 days and then split the wheel in 2 pieces, then waxed. Oh my God. Is that okay to cut the cheese before waxing? No, it's not, because the cheese develops from the inside out, and when you cut the wheel in 2, it doesn't ripen properly. Anyway, look, you can try it. That's just something that I've learnt over time, that the cheese that you press, because it has its rind intact from the outside and it's round, the rind protects the inside of the cheese and helps it during maturation. Even though you might not think there's a rind there, there is, because when you press it, the outer layer, the outer centimetre, is firmer than the inside. And when you cut it in half, you've lost that firmness on, nearly 50% of the surface. Okay, let's have a look. What's next? Lindsay says, do you have a recipe for traditional S-rom cheese from Denmark? I actually have, I think. S-rom. I'll put it down. It's on the list. The list is massive. Shady McGee says, what cheese requires the least amount of equipment? Well, I would say ricotta and maybe paneer. You hardly need anything. You've usually got the utensils in the kitchen. For those you don't need to press it. Soft cheeses, they work very well. Philip says, I've heard that it's difficult to get many European cheeses in Australia because of regulations and distance. Is this the case? Yes, it is. Australia food standards. Oh, sorry, not food standards. What are they called? Quarantine. Australian quarantine. At one stage, banned the import of raw milk cheeses. Very similar to what the US does. So many European cheeses are made with raw milk. So we can't get proper real cheese here in Australia from Europe anyway. So yes, we don't have a rather large selection, and some of the domestic replicas are good. I'll say that. And I've come across some that are actually fantastic, but I can't compare them with European cheeses because they can't transport them over here due to quarantine laws, which is a bit strange because most other countries don't have an issue with that. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Weslin says, hello, Mr. Weber. I'd like to know why some cheeses don't melt and how I can do a cheese that melts. Very simple, that one, Weslin, because any cheese that you have to cook the curds during the cheese making process and where you take it over 38 degrees Celsius, rarely melt. However, having said that, some Alpine cheeses melt readily and their temperatures go up to about 42. So that's probably not a good example. Cheeses that don't melt. So cheeses like halloumi, ricotta, that doesn't melt. Paneer doesn't melt. They are all very high temperature processed cheeses. So they're actually brought up to about 90 degrees Celsius, which during the cheese making process helps them form, and therefore they don't melt. So any cheese that you add rennet to usually is a fairly good melting cheese. I can't think of many examples where they don't melt. Parmesan probably doesn't melt as well because it is on the higher temperature range. But most other cheddars and farmhouse cheddars and Alpine and cheeses from the Netherlands, Denmark, what else? They all tend to melt. So yeah, it's very hard to determine. But like I said, the rule of thumb is anything over that where the milk's been heated over about 90 degrees Celsius, they don't melt during the cheese making process. Anyway, so I'll move along. Great question though. Thanks, Weslin. Auntie says, hello, Gavin. Have you done Swiss liquidy cheese? No, I haven't. Is there such a thing? Swiss liquidy cheese. Is there a proper name for it that'll help me on my quest? So check that out. Okay. Beth says, hiya, heart your channel. Could I make ricotta using goat's whey from using feta and some cow's milk? Yes, of course you could. That will make quite a good little ricotta. And it'll have the zing of the goat's milk that is often known for goat's milk cheeses. Yes, Philip, it is sad. Very, very sad. I wish we could get some European cheeses or cheeses from anywhere. So, like, there are a lot of South American cheeses that are made using raw milk as well, and we've never tasted them here at all. Um, Philip says, "Have you ever made a cheese from powdered milk?" I don't have a reason to try it. It just sounds interesting. I actually did watch a video of some guy on YouTube making quick mozzarella using a powdered milk, but it all looked a bit too complicated for me. And I thought, well, why not just go buy some milk down the road? It'll work a lot easier. Um, Essentially, he was making processed cheese because he was adding oil to the recipe. So any cheese where you add oil to it is not cheese. Anyway, Donna says, I just updated my Patreon amount because you give me my new cheese making abilities. Hope. Thank you. Thank you very much, Donna. Yes, and all the patrons who do provide me with financial support on a monthly basis, I really do appreciate it. It all helps keep the roof over our head and keep the interwebs running here in our house, so we can bring high quality live streams to you guys every Wednesday. Yeah, so thank you, Donna. Really appreciate it. Dharma says, "Hi Gavin, I found a statement that calcium chloride can fix the protein in UHT milk. What do you think?" I actually tried it and it didn't work. So no amount of calcium chloride will be able to fix the damage done to UHT milk by the heat treatment, as in the HT in heat treated milk. So don't waste your calcium chloride and don't waste your time. It doesn't fix anything. What's that? Scorn? I think that's how you say it. What cheeses do I recommend? All of them. Give all of them a try. Don't be shy. All of them are fantastic cheeses. Your palate will be awakened when you try something better than a craft single. Just saying. Beth says fab. Thank you, Beth. So, and best of luck with that ricotta. You should have no problems there. 3-star food dairy says, "Got to go. Thanks, Cheeseman. Waiting for a new upload." Yep, there'll be a new cheese uploaded on Friday morning my time. It's all ready to go. And it's quite interesting, even though it's one of the simplest cheeses I've ever made. Jay Walker says it's Tuesday. Well, maybe for you. It's Wednesday for me. Have you made a chocolate stout cheese? What's your favourite sweet cheese? No, I haven't made a chocolate stout cheese, and my favourite sweet cheese is this cream cheese one we can buy in the shops here that has, I think it's coated in almonds, crushed almonds, and it's got apricots, dried apricots in it, and it's absolutely delicious. Not sure who makes it, but it is a nice little cheese to add a little bit of sweetness to a cheese platter. Brendan says calcium chloride is not the panacea that it's often made out to be. That is correct. You use it when you need to use it, but it won't correct the issues with ultra pasteurized and ultra heat treated milk. You're trying to fight a losing battle there if you're trying to use those sort of milks. Go for the freshest freshest cheese, the freshest milk that you can possibly get. Des says, "Hi Gavin, is there any way of testing molds before using them? Them in cheese making? I made a raclette and Tilsit only fine bee linens was dead, but still in date. I always keep them in the freezer." Look, with bee linens, and a good way to reactivate it is to get make a bee linens wash. Because I often find that if I just put bee linens in the milk at the start with the starter culture, it takes a long time for the red mold bloom to start. So what I do, and I think I did it in the St. Paulin video, or the Port Salut, that was the one. The Port Salut video, I actually added bee linens to the water that I was washing the cheese with, and the bloom took off like crazy after about 2 days. So by adding the bee linens to the surface of the cheese, you find it will ripen a lot faster and the bee linens will activate and give you that beautiful texture inside the cheese that you're after. So maybe it wasn't dead, but you maybe had to add it to the outside. So that's probably one test. You could have washed the cheese with a bit of a simple brine solution with some bee linens in it. Okay. Scorn says, do you like cheesecake? Yes, I love cheesecake. I love baked cheesecakes better than I do normal cheesecakes. Don't ask me why. It's just a texture thing. Yasser says, hi, Mr. Gavin. Is there one rennet liquid or dray to make cheese? I'm interested in soft cheese and I use goat's milk. Thanks a lot. Is there one liquid rennet? Yeah, okay. Is there a liquid rennet? Yes, there is liquid rennet. It's difficult to get because it has a very short shelf life. There is another way to get rennet, and that is to go to your local butcher's and get the fourth stomach of a ruminant, usually calf or kid, and salt the stomach, and it becomes something called a rennet bag. And you can snip off and dry it in the sun, of course. And then you can snip off little bits of it and put it into your milk, and that will coagulate your milk. A lot of trial and error. Some people, I've seen some videos of people in South America use the rennet bag and they put it straight into the milk, and they actually wash the rennet bag with milk, and then for about 10 minutes, and then they take the rennet bag out and the milk starts to set. So that's how they traditionally used to do it. Yeah, Brendan says, if you want bee linens, just hold your cheese in your bare hands. Yeah, because it's all over our skin, bee linens. Anyway, usually found between your toes, of all things. Anyway, Auntie says, in Finland, we have this cheese called, don't pronounce, bread cheese. Okay, cool. It makes a squeaky sound when eaten. It's usually served with cloudberry and coffee. You can't find, you can find it in Wikipedia as Finnish squeaky cheese. It is made from regular milk or reindeer milk. Thought you might be interested. I actually do have a recipe for Finnish coffee cheese. Cafe cars, or something like that. Anyway, if Kim's still there, moderating, which I know she is, if you can pop over to littlegreencheese.com, honey, and find the recipe for coffee cheese, that would be fantastic, and post the link there, and people might be interested in making that cheese. Slasher Bandit says, hello, Gavin. Look at all these great names. Hi, Gavin. Just recently started watching your channel, and I'm in love with your content. However, I do not have a cheese cave, and I was wondering if there is an inexpensive way to store homemade cheese. Just to clear something up, and it's great that you're watching channel. I really appreciate that. The cheese cave is not for storing cheese. It's for maturing the cheese. You could store cheese once it's mature in the normal kitchen fridge, and that slows down the ripening process dramatically. It will still ripen a little bit, but the cheese cave, like I said, is for maturing your cheese. So it has a higher temperature, usually that's when I can tell I need another coffee. Usually about 13 degrees Celsius or 55 Fahrenheit, and you create the humidity using ripening boxes or vacuum seal or wax your cheese. Very hard to create a humid environment in a small bar fridge, which people tend to use, or even larger fridges. So there are some cheeses that you can actually make without having a cheese cave. And Kim, if you can pull up a link, thank you very much for that coffee cheese link. Can you pull up another link, which is the beginner's cheeses without a fridge video? And that will help out Slasher Bandit, and you'll be able to see a whole bunch of cheeses you can make without a cheese cave. So pretty cool. Auntie says it's like a side dish when having coffee with friends and family. Yes, that's the one. Yes, I know. I remember doing a post about it on littlegreencheese.com a long time ago. Now, for everybody out there, I don't know if you realise that I do have a separate cheese blog as well as this video channel, and it's in the banner, title banner there, whoop, down there, whoop, whoop, whoop. Littlegreencheese.com. It's got lots and lots of recipes. It's got a podcast that happens weekly. In fact, the last podcast episode was released 40 minutes ago, and it's about ant cheese. Very amazing. You have to go and listen to that. In fact, speaking of podcasts, here is a snippet of the podcast.
You're listening to Little Green Cheese, episode 71.
Well, welcome back. Anyway, that's enough of that. Yeah, so if you pop over to littlegreencheese.com, there are lots of buttons underneath the player where you can subscribe to the podcast in either Apple, what's it called, the podcast app, or I've recently got it listed on TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. There's even my podcast episodes on Spotify for all those who love to go over to those sorts of mediums. But any podcast player will be able to accept that feed. So I tend to listen to them on Overcast, which is my favourite podcast app. Anyway, and I've got lots of podcasts I listen to when I'm commuting or wanting to have some downtime. Very good. That it's the only cheese making one out there that is about home cheese making. There are a few dead podcasts out there about the cheese making process and factory made cheese and artisan cheese, but there are none absolutely dedicated to home cheese making. So hope you can pop over and have a listen to that. There are 71 of them now, I think. That is a lot of podcasts. Many hours of listening pleasure. Anyway, back to the questions. Philip says, when making Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis. How are you? Philip says, when making a cheddar using 5 litres of milk, I press at 22 kilos. For a cheese twice that size, I would use the same force. It seems strange to me, or is there something wrong? No, it's all about the surface area of the cheese, Philip. Brendan is right there that you use the same amount of pressure, because if you're using the same mould, the surface area on the top is the same. So you use the same amount of pressure, force. It's when you have larger, wider moulds, then there's a factor, there's a calculation, and it's in most of the cheese making books, the decent ones anyway. I know there's a calculation in this book here, the 200 Easy Homemade Cheeses, and there's going to be a calculation in my new book. And I can announce the title here because I'm still working on it. It's called Keep Calm and Make More Cheese. Very simple one, thought up by Kim. So bit of a twist on the first name of the book. Anyway, watch out for that soon. Soon. The way I'm going, it's going to be the end of the year before it's released. Anyway, yeah, so same sort of, so pressure is force divided by area. That's correct, Philip. So a large cheese would require. So it's a large cheese over the size of the pressing plate. So you are 100% correct there. So you would need more pressure if that was the case, if you stack some cheeses as well. B says, what is the oldest cheese you have had the pleasure of tasting? Well, I must say that the 1-year-old cheddar was an absolute delight. I had a Manchego sitting in the cheese cave for 18 months, and that was absolutely delightful as well. Amazing taste, but I didn't make it with sheep's milk. I made it with cow's milk, and it was very, very strong, but it tasted amazing. I've had a Romano, or a piece of Romano, it's gone now, that was 2 years old, that was made from raw milk. And that the flavour was just amazing. When you use raw milk for cheese making, then expect some amazing flavors come out of it. Um, so yeah, that was pretty cool. So there's some of the oldest ones I've ever tasted. It's very hard when you're a cheesemaker, if you don't make enough cheese, to hold back from eating them early. Now I do see on some of the Facebook forums that I'm on for cheese making, one in particular, Learn to Make Cheese, which is absolutely fantastic, and it's got a very large subscriber group there to that Facebook group. And I see a lot of people, they taste their cheese early, way too early, and the flavors just won't be there. And if they want to be impressed, they should leave it until it stays till full maturity, as recommended in the recipe. Because those times of waiting and maturing the cheese aren't there for their health. It's there to make the flavor of the cheese absolutely spot on. So yeah, don't be tempted to try your cheese early anyway. Okay, Rappler says, excuse me. Rappler says, have ever experimented with tofu? Seems like a skill set that would translate well. Kind of. No, I haven't made tofu. I tried once, it didn't work because I didn't make the soy milk myself. A lot of the soy milks here that are served up in the supermarket actually have sunflower oil in them as an additive, and won't set into a tofu. You've got to get the beans, you've got to soak them, you've got to crush them, you've got to do it all yourself. Um, and even being a cheesemaker, that seems like a lot of hard work to me, to squeeze a milk out of beans when I can just go get it from a cow or goat or sheep. Um, but yeah, I've got some kits that you can actually make tofu with, but you have to get a decent sort of soy milk or make it yourself. Brendan says, I made fontina with raw milk using your video. Can't wait to try it. I bet it's going to taste amazing, Brendan, because my fontina had so many complex flavors. Not that I used raw milk, I used pasteurized, unhomogenized. Phoenix says, hello, mate. What is rennet and where does it come from? Well, for those uninitiated, rennet in its purest form comes from the forestomach of a ruminant, and I've said that. Sorry, I've said that during the show. So the forestomach, it's dried out, it's salted. It's salted, then dried out, and then you can use it in milk, and that you can extract the rennet, which is called chymosin, and pepsin. They're the two enzymes that coagulate milk. These days, rennet is made in a laboratory, and it's made from a fungi, which I can't pronounce the name, and it still has chymosin, which is the enzyme. So there's two types, and there's actually another one which is fermented rennet, which is made. It's a GMO product where they take the chymosin from a animal rennet cell and replicate that in the lab, and then the animal product dies off during the process. So apparently, there's no GMO in the rennet, actual rennet itself. So there you go. So that's where rennet comes from. Donna says, if anyone has never eaten a type of cheese, how do you know if it's bad, other than a mouldy taste, perhaps? Good question. And can you move a cheese back from the fridge to the cheese cave to continue maturation if it's vacuum packed, or would it just waste time? Two good questions. So the first question, if you've never eaten a cheese, how do you know if it's bad? Look, if it's covered in black mold, then it's bad. If it's dried out and it's rock hard, then I wouldn't eat it either. Mind you, I've grated hard cheeses before, and they've actually tasted quite amazing. As long as your milk was pasteurized in the first place, there's not too many issues with cheese. If your nose, if it smells terrible, then don't eat it, basically, except for if it's a wash rind cheese. They always smell terrible until you eat them, and they're amazing. Now, the second half of the question is, can you move cheese back from the fridge to the cheese cave? Yes, I've done that before myself, and it worked. It actually kept maturing. So the extra temperature reactivated the enzymes that are left over from the dead bacteria, lactic bacteria, and they still produced it, so it was quite good. Okay. Philip said, I've had an 18-month sheep milk manchego cheese in Spain. It is amazing, a nutty rind and a smooth centre. Yeah, it is absolutely amazing. We actually get manchego cheese over here, but it's a pasteurised type, and I dare say it probably doesn't do the justice of the stuff that you can get in Spain. Phoenix Troy says, wow, thanks very much. I'll stick to the non-GMO, but I can't wait to make my first cheese thanks to you. Thank you very much, Phoenix. Okay, so we're at 50 minutes into the show. If there's no further questions, I think we'll probably wrap up for the day, because my milk is due to be delivered from Inglenook Dairy between 9 and 10, so I can start making my cheese for next weekend's video. So we'll call it a day. So, Kim, if you can start rolling the credits, that would be absolutely fantastic. Don't forget that there's still a little bit of time to do a super chat if you want, which is asking a question, and you actually put a few dollars in my pocket. Your question obviously goes to the top. I should have said that at the start of the show. I'm a buffhead. Also, there's a link to Patreon, that's the word, that's how you say it, down in the video description, so check that out if you want to pledge ongoing support like Donna does, and I think Brendan does as well. That would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. You can buy cheese-making supplies and kits and all that good gear over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au. We've got a big cheese-making section there. And we do ship all over the world, and your cheese stuff gets there. And if you want to pick up a cool mug like this and T-shirts like I wear, then pop over to cafepress.com, and the channel is cheeseman.tv. And, of course, as I mentioned before, the podcast over at littlegreencheese.com, and there's a whole bunch of cheese-making recipes as well. So thank you for watching, everybody. Without your questions, the show would be pretty boring, I reckon. So thanks for turning up week after week and watching watching the show and asking your cheese-making questions. I really do appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Kim and I will, and Kim's waved, and she's gone too. Anyway, thanks for watching, Curd Nerds. We'll see you next week.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. G'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.